This is KUGAN CASSIUS Rifle TV in association with Gennady Golovkin. With me I've got Kell Brook. Just catching you before you go to the press conference tomorrow in New York for the Golovkin fight. This must have been a mad 7 days for you, Kell.
Crazy. You know, as soon as I got the message off Eddie, I had to double check, you know, and straight away I told him I want the fight. Like I've been saying, you know, for a long time, I want the biggest fights out there, you know, and he don't get much bigger than Brook versus Triple G. You know, he's the most fearless guy, you know, on the planet, and I'm wanting the fight. And you know what's gonna happen? I'm gonna win this guy. I'm gonna beat him because I've got the speed and the power, you know, up at 160. Look at the size of me now. I'm not coming up, I'm coming down to weight, you know, so I'm going to be a beast on September 10th.
Okay, let's just talk a little bit about Jesse Vargas. Obviously, this was the fight that we were waiting for Eddie Hearn and Matchroom to announce, sort of keeping up to date with the Twitter thing with you and Vargas, and then obviously Eddie was keeping up to date with stuff to do with the contract and that. Why didn't that fight happen first of all, before we move on to Golovkin? Why didn't the Vargas fight happen?
You know, I think it were, you know, with their side, you know, playing the games, you know, obviously you're on a lot of money for this fight, you know, even though he's a world champion, he still hasn't got that name, you know, he still hasn't got that massive name, you know, even though it was going to be a unification fight, you know, the pay-per-view buys, you know, it would have, he was getting a lot of money for this fight, and he was still saying certain things, you know, like in we how many flights he wants, and you know, and other little things, you know, just he was going off like he was a man, but no, that's not, you know, that's why it went, you know, it ended up dying. You know, we couldn't get up to where we needed to get, you know, in that fight. So, you know, we give them, you know, a time to, you know, to obviously come. We needed their money to come down a little bit for it to happen, because I was basically fighting for free, you know, just to get the big fight. I would have took that belt off him, and then I would have been the unified champion at welterweight, and I would have been in with the Thurmans and, you know, Gennady Golovkin, you know. So, you know, I was taking the fight, you know, for that, you know, to take that title off him and to fight, you know, the big fights and unify the welterweight division.
So Eddie Hearn said that he spoke to you last Wednesday. By the time he was speaking to you, was the Vargas fight over with, as in wasn't happening?
No.
Before you had a conversation about Golovkin?
No, we're still waiting. We're still waiting on the Vargas. We're still waiting. They needed to drop. You needed to make it, you know, worth my while of going through an hard training camp. I needed to get a few quid, you know, instead of he run a lot of money. You know, and it's a unification fight. I want to get paid for a big fight, so, you know, it kind of went stale, that fight. You know, days went on, and then, like I said, this is where the Triple G fight came.
Tell me about the conversation with Eddie Hearn. He's already said that he was phoning you, speaking to you Wednesday night, and it was he was trying to serious, but saying it to you in a kind of way of, you know, you should fight him, and hoping for a response back from you to say, well, I will, and that's the response he got. Was that how the conversation went?
Yeah, basically it went like that. You know, he phoned and he was saying, why don't you take the Golovkin fight? And I went, you know what, let's do that fight. You know what, you know, like he knows, and you know the boxing knows, they know I'm a really big guy. You know, so it's not gonna be. People are saying, you know, the weight difference is gonna be a big issue in this fight. I don't think it is. You know, I'm more vicious in sparring. You know, when I'm around 160, still coming down in weight, and that's where I'm most. You know, like I said, more vicious, more healthy. You know, there's a lot more output from me. So I'm really excited getting in that ring at 160 and, you know, showing exactly what I can do. 100%, a full 100% is going to come out of me in this fight.
Eubank Jnr went to Twitter to brand the fight a joke, as in terms of weight. and then you got into a little thing over Twitter with Eubank Jr. But I mean, what's your thoughts on Eubank Jr.? This was the fight that was in his court to make with Golovkin. It didn't happen, and then, like I said, it spun on its head when it was announced to you. But what is your thoughts on obviously the stuff that Chris Eubank Jr. was saying to you about you being too small, etc., etc.?
You know, I think Chris Eubank Jr. I think is an improved fighter. You know, I've got a lot of respect for him. You know, the fighting goes. You know, but he is, you know, just come a British champion. He's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of potential, but I think his dad's an idiot. I think his dad's a joker. You know, I can't take him serious. You know, what he did for the sport were unbelievable, but I'm not liking him as a person. How he's going off with, you know, he's ruining his son's life. You know, I don't know who he thinks he is, but you know, that's that. He's ruining the kid's life. You know, they had the same contract. Look how fast I said. You know, I agreed to the fight, and I'm a world champion, unbeaten. You know, never been close to being beat. I signed the contract. You know, in quick time. He was messing about, dragging his feet, messing. He's messed it up for his son. So I'm gonna show him what's what in this fight. You know, and take them titles off Triple G.
When you hear Eddie Hearn talking about stuff to do with doubling the ticket prices, they wanted to say on the security, the commentators. I mean, like I said,
ludicrous. Who does he think he is? Who does he think he is? You know, we've grafted. I've been boxing since 21 years. I've been grafting, and I've had an hard road, me. You know, and even I'm not gonna come out with demands like this. You know, commentators, his own security, how much he's gonna be paying the undercard. You know, he wants like Barry McGuigan commentating. You know, on his fight because he had him commentating when he boxed Ben or whatever. He's coming out with all these things and he's I don't know what were happening in the negotiations for the fight, but everyone knows this guy, man. What's up with him? You know, I think now, you know, he's gonna have to seriously have a word with himself, you know, and come back down to earth as hard as it might be, and get with the real world.
This is a tall order for you. This is a tough task. We don't obviously, you know that regardless of whatever, but your career as a middleweight, is it dependent on what happens in this fight, or is your, like I said, you still got your IBF title at welterweight regardless? But I mean, people always said that you possibly move up to light middleweight, but you're jumping up 2 weights now. Where does your sort of career stand as in weight wise?
You know, I'm from welterweight to middleweight. You know, like I said, I want, you know, the fans, you know, pay our wages, and I want to give back to the fans. I've been telling them, they've been saying I don't want certain fights or whatever, but if they don't know what happens in politics in the game, you know, no fault of my own. I've had mandatories, I've had been injured, I got stabbed and everything else, so you know, it's been hard to get these huge fights. As soon as there's been any kind of a window of these fights happening, look at it. This is the biggest fight in world boxing. You know, me unbeaten welterweight jumping up 2 weights against the undisputed pound for pound king Triple G. You know, it don't get any bigger. Both unbeaten. I don't know how to lose. You know, I don't know how to lose. I'm excited getting in this fight and being tested. I'm gonna be tested to the absolute max. I'm excited to see what I can do at this level, you know, because I believe that nobody's brought the best out of me, you know, and I know, my dad's always said, you know, whenever it's got tough in there, I've always found a way, and I think it was written in the stars, this fight, you know, the Vargas fight happening, the messing about with the Eubanks, it's written in the stars, this fight, you know, I'm going to make history in this fight, like all the greats have done before. That's what I want to do. Boxing is a small window of an opportunity, and I'm taking this opportunity as showing the world, you know, I'm a special fighter.
Can you accept you're the underdog going into this fight?
Absolutely, you know, absolutely. I'm jumping up 2 weights. He's destroyed absolutely everybody they put in front of him. You know, Canelo give his title up to avoid him. You know, all these fighters are running away from me. I'm running towards Triple G. I'm running towards these top fighters. I want to fight the best in the world. That's why I'm taking this fight. I believe that I belong at the very, very best. And you're gonna see on fight night. You're gonna see in the press conferences, you know, the size difference, and you're gonna see that I don't look 2 weight below him.
There was a bit of criticism when Khan fought Canelo, and that wasn't even at 160 pounds. It was a middleweight title at 155 pound. And there are people just, you know, Paulie Malignaggi was vocal for one the other day on Twitter saying that weight categories are there for a reason. It's dangerous. Do you see that side of it, Kell, about you jumping up, regardless of whether people think, oh, you should be a light middleweight or whatever, and how big you are now, jumping up 2 weights to fight someone like Golovkin? Do you see the dangers in that?
I can see it
from a weight perspective.
Yeah, I can see where people are coming from. These weights for a reason, but I've been making welterweight since I were in the amateurs. You know what I mean? And nobody knows, you know, how hard it is for me to make welterweight. It's really, really hard. So I don't know if I am actually a welterweight. I've got the best nutritionist to make it me fit into a welterweight, you know, into a welterweight. But I think I'm more like in between light middleweight, you know. And at the end of the day, I've got the power, and I've got the speed, you know. And I don't think it's gonna be a massive, you know, difference in this fight. It's like what the greats have done, you know. Trinidad coming up to fight middleweight. You got Sugar Ray Robinson, Leonard when he boxed, Agler, and then you can even go on Mayweather started his career at super featherweight. Manny Pacquiao, even lighter, going all the way up to welter light middleweight. You know, so it's the same. You know, I started my career I'm at welterweight. These were lighter guys and they've come up. So, you know, I think if you're good enough, you've got the power, you know, and you're meant to be a supreme beast, you know, you're in good hands.
Khan tweeted you and was giving you praise for taking the fight, but also a little bit backhanded with you're taking a leaf out of his book. I think that's Amir Khan's gone away, but he was giving you ultimate credit for taking the fight. But
it was tongue in cheek, you know. He's got to say a certain thing. You know what it is. Let me tell you something about Khan. You know, everyone thinks that I hate him or whatever. You know, I don't hate him. You know, actually, there's kids in our gym, you know, and he said that he's a really nice person. Forget the boxing side, there's a person, you know, hi, you know, just chilling. I think that he's a nice kid, but I'm only like I am with him because he's conning the boxing fans. He's conning the boxing fans. We should fight. We should give back to the fans because, you know, they've made us who we are today. We need to give back with the best fights for them, you know. So when they're going out and, you know, they're having a few beers and they're getting excited for the best fights to be made, you know, me and Khan is one of them. You know what I mean? And this fight with me and Golovkin is the biggest fight to be made in the sport, and I'm just happy, you know, that I've made it for the fans and watch me go.
Well, I mean, obviously this fight, this is for you, this is as big as it can get. But the Amir Khan fight, do you have a desire for that still, like you did, say, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, or is it kind of?
I'm drained from it. You know, if I thought it were, you know, it were gonna happen, you know, it'd all come back and I'd be excited about it, KUGAN. But these massive fights can be made with or without him. This fight, you know, if not bigger than Khan, I don't know, unless it got made, we'd have to see. But the response I've had since this fight's been made has been, you can imagine, off the Richter scale, non-stop calls, non-stop. It's going crazy for tickets. Everyone's loving this fight.
If you are successful on September 10th, are you open to the Eubank fight?
The Eubank fight?
Yeah, for Eubank, there's talk of him potentially facing the winner of you and Triple G. What do you think about that?
You know, when that time comes, we'd have to, you know, sit down and make sure that, you know, by then I'm the pound for pound. I'm like royalty. You know, there's no bigger. I'm the man in every weight division in the boxing world. You know, and pound for pound, I've moved up 2 weights and I've took the best out. You know, so you know, I think we can talk about that fight. Absolutely, because you know there's big talks about it now that he lost his pen in signing the contract. I took the fight, so his name's still connected to ours. So I think it'd blow up to be a big fight. Yeah.
How would you feel if you fought on the undercard? Of your undercard, yeah.
No, it won't mean nothing to me. You know, I've got my opponent on my mind daily. You know, all I'm concentrating on Gennady Golovkin. So all on the undercard don't matter to me. I'm focused.
What? Do you think you can stop him?
You know, I've got the power. I've got the power to stop any man in any way. You know, so absolutely. I always go in there to, you know, to make the fight exciting. I'm always going there to stop my opponent. So I'll be looking to stop him, absolutely. But you know, I'm looking also to win. That's the main thing. I've never lost. I'm going in there to win. Absolutely.
Do we know how good you are yet? You've had 35 fights now. Do we know how good Kell Brook is? 36, sorry. Golovkin's had 35.
Yeah.
Do we know how good you are yet after all them fights, or not yet?
No. We haven't seen the best of me. You know, and I think in this fight we're gonna see all of me. I'm gonna need all of me to beat this guy. This guy's no joke. Taking it very serious. But I think me up these higher weights, I'm gonna bring the speed, you know, and I'm gonna bring the power, you know, and I'm gonna bring the will to win, like I always bring, and I always find a way to win.
O2 Arena, September 10th. It's just the tickets went on sale today, I believe, to Fight Pass members at Metro. So by Friday, when they go on general sale, I'm assuming that it will sell out in double quick time.
Absolutely. This fight, there's no other fight to be made in world boxing what's as big. No way. The tickets will sell out very, very fast. What an exciting fight this is going to be.
I don't think when you mentioned him in the past, like, you know, a few months ago, isn't it the first time this has been mentioned, Golovkin Brook, but I don't really think people took any notice of it and took you serious. I think, or Eddie Hearn serious.
Yeah.
You know, he would say that Kell Brook would take that fight, and I think a lot of people thinking, really, but obviously you can't do any more than
people are saying that because, you know, I'm unbeaten, I'm a world champion, you know, stood here today, you know, and they think, you know, why should I jump up and take it? But they don't know that, you know, that, like I've been saying, unless they don't believe me, I want the biggest fights out there for the fans, and that's why this fight's been made. And I feel that I'm going to be comfortable at middleweight, strong, healthy, you know, thinking sharp, and that's why this fight's happening.
All right, Kell Brook, listen, thank you very much for talking to Eiffel TV. Good luck with the press conference tomorrow in New York, and then you're off training after the weekend. Yeah,
Monday I'm off to Fuerteventura. You know, Adam Bailey out there has got a place locked off for us, and you know we've got everything we need. We've got all the facilities we need. It's a fantastic training camp out there, so that's where you'll find me. Fuerteventura.
I'm sure you'll be back as well for a press conference in the UK as well with Golovkin.
Yeah. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna New York tomorrow, and then in a few weeks' time, you know, we're gonna see Triple G in the UK. So we'll see him. You know, it's funny because like Kazakhstan and stuff like him, like me growing up with the Borat, you know, I used to love the Borat, and I'm thinking with Kazakhstan, you know, you like, I love Borat, you know, and that's the other thing as well, like with the Borat thing, that's the only thing I can relate to when I think of him, I just think, you know, that kind of thing. But I know one thing, you know, is the real deal. I've got my work cut out, so we're good.
Alright, well listen, safe flight to New York, and like I said, we'll catch up.
You like that one, innit? You like that Borat one? It is, yeah.
Kell Brook, listen, thank you very much for the time on TV, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you, cool.